But is there any example of a national electrical power distribution grid being, well, just the grid of any country? Are there any examples in history, you know, better than me, or whether any of those were pursued on the basis of a private initiative where they decided to agree standardisation between them and then decided to link up? Electricity is important for the modern world, obviously.
Yeah, of course, electricity is vital, but I don't know. I don't see why actually a private company that has a grid, you know, covering, I don't know, the city of Lille or something like this, would not, you know, create connections with another private company that would cover the city of Arras or Brussels. Because there could be peaks, exactly like between France and England. Because of the time difference, there are peaks in this country of you know, consumption that is now supplied by the French, and vice versa. So, I mean, private companies would think, you know, managers would think exactly the same way, and saying, you know, there is a possibility. Also, it makes our system more reliable, because if we have, you know, in one of the power plants, if we have a failure, we can draw, you know, from your power plant, and we will pay the electricity that we are drawing.
Yes, of course, yeah. But is it actually happening?
It's not permitted to happen.
Sorry?
It's not permitted to happen.
No, anywhere in the world, they're not meant to.
It won't be seen if it is displaced by the state doing it badly for you and not allowing someone else to do it.
Okay.
Mark? Is it Mark?
Adrian.
Pardon? Adrian, beg your pardon, Adrian. I thought it was Mark. Adrian, anyway. Sorry.
I'm not convinced by the theory. I'm not convinced by any of Marxism actually, and I'm not convinced that your libertarian hacks to the theory of ideology and the ruling class work for you. I don't think they work for you, and I don't think they rescue either of those theories. To take the theory of ideology specifically, you seem to go along with the general Marxist schema of that, which is to say one's place in a series of power relations and the interest that gives one, regardless of the troubling question, actually, regardless for now of the troubling question of how self-conscious one is of that place and the things it is in one's interest to do because of it. One's place in a set of power relations makes one think certain things, makes one say certain things to other people and adopt certain persuasive strategies. And that commits you to a fairly crude, or a very sophisticated, actually, psychological theory. You then need to come up with why people think the things they do and say the things they do. And it strikes me that I don't know where that theory is. I can't see the example of it. And it's a problem in Marx. It's a problem for Marxists, and their attempts to come up with theories throughout the 20th century and the 21st lead to ever more exotic and weird and jargon-ridden adumbrations of the original theory. And it strikes me as being quite plausible that it's the other way around. That because of the mistakes people make in trying to understand economics and some of the complexities of modern society and technology and that kind of stuff, that they tend to desire certain sorts of structures, or tend to believe that certain sorts of structures are necessary to achieve very, very common human ends, and therefore support schemes like social democracy. That seems to be quite a plausible explanation of the relationship between people's place in certain sets of power relations. Or rather, actually, it's an explanation of a disconnect between that. It means that your place in a certain set of power relations doesn't determine what you'll think and say about the underlying reality. And that would explain why so many people go along with this, who don't have anything to gain from it, because of course it's not just the 20% of the people, who we can identify as in some way either patrons or clients of the ruling class, if we were to accept the idea of the ruling class. Practically everyone adopts it. If you were to kind of knock out a set of precepts that describe the modern social democratic state, I'm sure you could find something like 80% acceptance of it. And I think the reason for that might simply be that this is how people perceive some of the large-scale facts, or misperceive them, of the world around them. It isn't instead that there is some kind of creepy psychological theory, some sort of hermeneutics of deceit, which forces people to come up with persuasive schemes to get everyone to go along with it for a while. Or if it is, we need a theory that tells us how that is. And Marxism hasn't been able to come up with it. So if you're going to resurrect this, that's your task too, to say why this is. It's not merely the problem of whether or not it's self-conscious. If it's self-conscious or if it's subconscious, you need to explain these behavioural outcomes, why people say and think the things they do in support of these structures.
Yes, I don't think that it is psychological at all, and certainly Marx wouldn't say that it is psychological.
No, he left it unexplained and not well explained. It's a gap in Marx.
Well, yeah, I think what we are describing, that people view the world according to their position in the structure of production is something that is more. It came later. It is people like Althusser, certainly after Gramsci and Lukács. There's people like Althusser, throw this question: where are you talking from? Because where you are talking from will inform what it is that you are saying. If you are, the extreme of this was developed by people in the 1970s and 1880s, saying that the only individuals who can give us a true, unbiased account of the world are black women, because black women are the bottom of the pile. They have no interest to defend because they don't have any property or anything. So I
suppose I'm saying that's all rubbish, Gramsci.
Yeah, exactly.
Those theorist ideologies, that's all rubbish.
Yeah. So I don't think that is very helpful. I think that what is more helpful is to say that in order for the exploitation to continue, it cannot be imposed by violence alone, because violence is too costly. And if you don't have a legitimizing discourse, if you don't have a kind of ideology where people will accept their inferior position, people will accept that they have to pay taxes, that they have to obey, that they have to follow the rules, accept the norms, and so on, even when it is costly to them, even when it is something that is affecting their family life, affecting their well-being. In order for this to happen, you have to have that kind of discourse. And that kind of discourse is not produced, obviously, by the people who are in the inferior position. It is produced by the people who benefit from the structure of production. And that discourse, again, what I was saying earlier, it's not, that someone sits down and says, okay, how am I going to explain that I boss these people around? What is it that I'm going to say? I don't think it is as crude as this. I mean, it may be in a very small sort of, collectivity. I mean, when I was running a company, I would sit down and say, what am I going to tell the staff? Why I'm not going to, increase their salary or something like that. And I had to find a legitimizing discourse why I'm not increasing their salary, competition, things like that. In reality, I wanted a bigger dividend. So, but I had to explain, of course, something different. I couldn't say, well, I want a bigger dividend, so guys are not going to get, a pay rise. Competition, whatever, is putting us in a difficult position. So, in the larger scale of things, at the level of state, then there are so many different interests, between the ruling class, that the unifying factor has to be something that is above them, something that works even when they are not totally aware of it. And I think, kings we're good Catholics. It's not that they said we need Catholicism because the ointment, you say that? The ointment is given by God, and therefore we are king and things like that. They believed in this. They really believed that they were designated by God to run the country and so on. And it worked because everybody believed that, yes, he is designated by God, and therefore we have to accept the authority of the king. So it works within people, but without people being fully aware that they know it is in their interest, but it is something that transcends them, and that's why it works. And then suddenly, in the sort of 17th, 18th century, people said, what is this business of, ointment and all that sort of thing? I mean, kings, they are just men like we are. And suddenly, you had a desacredness, desacralization of kings. And people say, why do we need kings? Behead them.